okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Keep getting this magazine,
Yeah, one will pop up.
That's okay. Here we go.
Gameplay.
Nintendo, this is Craig. How can I help you?
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at the console that reignited home gaming and may have single-handedly saved the industry. After 40 years, you'd think we'd have discovered everything about this console. Turns out there's still some secrets. These are 20 things you didn't know about the NES. Let's go.
Before we continue, we publish content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos.
Unknown release. Here's a fun bit of gaming trivia. Despite Super Mario Bros. Being one of the most influential games ever made, nobody can actually agree on when it was released in the United States. It's the weirdest thing, but it's true. We know it dropped in Japan on September 13th, 1985. That part's easy, but when it came to the US, things turned into a historical scavenger hunt. The NES itself only launched in limited regions on October 18th, 1985, and record keeping back then was apparently done on napkins. For years, fans assumed Super Mario Bros. Arrived in 1986 because it started shipping with consoles around then. Nintendo now insists the game launched with the NES, which is adorable but not exactly supported by reality. A deeply researched article from 2012 argues the US launch actually happened on November 17th, 1985, about a month after the console. With documentation being as murky as Cheap Cheap Pond, the truth may forever remain a mystery. Super Mario Bros. Theme has lyrics. Nintendo is notorious for guarding its intellectual property with the ferocity of Bowser protecting his 8th castle, firing off cease and desist letters like their party favors. But in the early days, the company occasionally approved projects so random you'd think someone misplaced the rulebook. Nintendo ran a contest in 1985 inviting fans to submit lyrics for the first level theme of Super Mario Bros. A version called Go Go Mario won, and was actually officially licensed by Nintendo and put on vinyl. The track is surprisingly catchy, even if the English translation reads like Mario's motivational calendar. Due to the previously mentioned Nintendo lawsuit ferocity, I can't play the song, so here's my best rendition. Once again today, Mario cheerfully takes off, and again today he cheerfully jumps. Again today he cheerfully searches for coins. Again today, Mario will keep pushing forward. NES games are still being made. The NES was discontinued in 1995, but that didn't stop new games from appearing. In true undead console fashion, new unofficial NES games keep appearing, sometimes even on actual physical cartridges, like it's still 1989 and Blockbuster hasn't betrayed us yet. Thanks to the booming retro gaming obsession, passionate fans have taken it upon themselves to create brand new titles playable on original hardware. And the games themselves, shockingly great. Titles like Always Awakening and Full Quiet remind players why that era still hits so hard. Tight gameplay, charming visuals, and zero microtransactions trying to sell you a hat. Origins of survival horror. When people look back at Resident Evil, it's easy to assume Capcom simply invented survival horror in 1996 by trapping players in a mansion full of questionable architecture and even more questionable monsters. But the real story wanders somewhere far stranger, right into the library of the original NES, the Famicom. Years before zombies were moaning at locked doors, Capcom released Sweet Home. Not just a movie tie-in, but a horror-themed RPG about a film crew stuck inside a haunted mansion. Sound familiar? It wasn't just unusual for 1989, it was practically an alien concept on the Famicom. Limited inventory, strategic planning, and a creeping dread that something horrible is waiting behind the next pixelated doorway. That was Sweet Home, and Japan got to experience it while Western players remained blissfully untraumatized. Screws define price.
Cartridge, can you tell which copy of Pinball is the 3-screw and which one is the 5-screw?
If you've ever flipped over an NES cartridge and wondered why the back looks like a hardware personality test, congratulations, you might be holding something valuable. Collectors obsess over tiny details, and in the world of cartridges, screw count can mean the difference between cool nostalgia piece and please don't breathe near this, it's worth the rent money. Early NES games featured 5 screws on the back, while later releases shifted to a 3-screw setup with plastic locking tabs. Why the change? Nintendo never gave an official explanation, so we'll assume it came down to age-old corporate logic of, 3 screws are cheaper. Here's the fun part. Every NES game released before mid-1987 originally shipped as a 5-screw version, which makes certain variants surprisingly rare. Some collectors will pay a small fortune for them, which is fantastic news if you've learned this today and are now sprinting to your storage box.
The Nintendo seal of quality is circular, and the Nintendo seal of quality here is oval.
Doki Doki Mario. Most gamers have heard the classic tale of Super Mario Bros. 2, the one where Japan got a brutally difficult sequel, while the rest of the world received a totally different game that began life as Doki Doki Panic. It's one of Nintendo's most infamous bits of trivia, right up there with Luigi is taller and Bowser really needs a hobby. But here's the twist. The story everyone repeats isn't entirely accurate. The game's signature vertical climbing mechanics, they weren't originally for Doki Doki Panic at all. Tanabe actually did pitch the idea first as a concept for a brand new Mario game. Only after the vertical concept found a home in Doki Doki Panic did it become clear that the gameplay blended surprisingly well with Mario's universe. No playtesting. Do you ever feel like games got easier? Some of the NES classics that defined my childhood feel like they turned my hair grey at age 5. There's a reason those pixelated classics hit harder than modern titles with 10 difficulty settings and a please don't hurt me mode. Back in the NES era, game development teams were tiny, sometimes just a handful of programmers chained to their keyboards with coffee-based life support. There were no standardized difficulty guidelines and no focus groups gently suggesting, hey, maybe don't make level 1 impossible. The developers simply played their own games, got extremely good at them, and concluded with great confidence, yeah, this is too easy. Spoiler, it wasn't. The game that sold for $100,000. When the NES era began, game prices weren't far off from what we pay for modern titles. Your wallet sighed, but it survived. Fast forward a few decades, and the market looks like it was designed by a very confused stockbroker. Some cartridges cost pocket change, while others sell for amounts that could pay off someone's student loans and their regrets. Take the legendary Nintendo World Championship cartridge, which once went for a jaw-dropping $100,000 on eBay. Not to be outdone, stadium events fetched nearly $42,000, proving once and for all that collectors will absurdly empty their bank accounts for rare plastic rectangles. Initially going to be distributed by Atari.
Let's see your best pitch.
Thanks to Atari and the licensed game E.T., by the early 1980s, the video game industry looked like a clown car on fire. The whole gaming industry ecosystem wobbled like a Jenga tower built on shame. Meanwhile, in Japan, Nintendo had just launched the Famicom, and initial sales were meh. Hoping to break into the US market, Nintendo approached Atari with a partnership deal. The plan? Atari would release a home computer system called the Nintendo Advanced Video Gaming System, complete with a keyboard and cassette recorder. But Atari executives spotted competitor Coleco showing Donkey Kong on its new Atom computer. Thinking Nintendo had betrayed them, Atari panicked while Nintendo stood there like, wait, what? Once everyone realized it was a misunderstanding, things might have recovered if Atari's CEO hadn't been booted out immediately after. The deal dissolved on the spot.
Dark at home? Yeah, you can. Atari!
It's berserk inside and electric maze.
Unlicensed game cartridges. Learning from their mistakes, Nintendo was determined not to repeat Atari's let's flood stores with everything strategy. To keep quality high and chaos low, Nintendo capped publishers at 5 games per year and installed the now infamous 10 NES lockout chip, which politely told unauthorized cartridges to go away. Atari, still not learning, created a new publishing arm called Tengen, so it could release NES titles without the baggage of their name. Tengen put out 3 fully licensed games, then spent months trying and failing to crack Nintendo's security chip. Finally, in a beautifully mischievous move, Atari requested the chip's technical documentation from the US Copyright Office. The moment those papers arrived, Tengen engineers reverse engineered the chip, and a flood of unauthorized stylish black cartridges, more than a dozen, all completely unapproved. Nintendo eventually sued, obviously, and Tengen lost, forcing a massive recall. Marketed as a toy.
Here's what happens when you get hooked up with the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I'm still raging on Atari. In 1985, retailers treated video game consoles the same way people treat abandoned fridges on the street. You don't touch them, and you definitely don't buy them. To dodge the lingering stench of the early 80s crash, Nintendo basically disguised the NES like it was going incognito. Instead of marketing it as a game console, they started calling it an entertainment system, as if it might spontaneously start juggling or perform stand-up. Even the accessories were chosen to avoid looking too gamerish. Thus came the light gun and the ever-confusing R.O.B, a robotic buddy who reacted to on-screen cues and seemed designed mostly to convince toy aisles, see, this isn't one of those cursed video game boxes.
And Duck Hunt. And only Nintendo lets you collect these exciting games.
Weird peripherals.
In a time when you'll control your world with the sound of your voice.
TV.
All you do is say it.
Video game.
And it happens.
Laser scope.
Speaking of R.O.B, Nintendo and its competitors went all in on accessories that felt like someone's wild brainstorm made it to manufacturing before anyone asked, wait, does this thing work? Take the Power Pad, for example. Certain NES bundles shipped with this giant floor mat covered in precious sensors, perfect for pretending you were an Olympic sprinter while your living room carpet silently judged you. And while the NES Zapper is now cherished nostalgia, Konami decided to one-up things with the Laser Scope headset. It had an eye-mounted crosshair and claimed it would fire whenever you shouted, fire. Unfortunately, it also fired when you said anything else, breathed too loudly, or existed in its vicinity. Then, of course, we have the legendary Power Glove. Don't even get me started.
Start living it now with Laser Scope from Konami. More power than you ever imagined.
Shigeru Miyamoto's first console game. Shigeru Miyamoto is basically the Beyonce of game design. When he creates something, the entire industry starts taking notes. As the mind behind Donkey Kong, Mario, and The Legend of Zelda, his legacy is untouched, but strangely his first console game, Devil World, never made it to the United States, and almost certainly never will. It's not because Devil World is bad, in fact it's a charming little maze game, but it's also a Sunday school fever dream. Hovering over the maze is a cartoon devil directing monsters, while the player scoops up crosses and Bibles to gain powers. Even today, releasing a game that involves collecting religious symbols while dodging Satan would give Nintendo of America an immediate migraine. Super Mario Bros. Still rules. No Nintendo title even came close to the success of Super Mario Bros. The game had moved almost 58 million copies worldwide, which is wild considering it came out during a time when people weren't sure video games deserved to exist anymore. And the mustachioed plumber didn't just save Princess Peach, he rescued the entire industry. What's even funnier is that Super Mario Bros. Is still the oldest title sitting high on the all-time bestseller charts. Meanwhile, Minecraft is busy ruling the list with 238 million copies sold, casually flexing its pixelated empire. It took Nintendo 20 years to surpass Mario's original numbers. What a beast old mate Mario is. Popular NES games weren't easy to buy. You want to complain when a game doesn't get global online release? Get over yourself. Back in the 80s, when Nintendo ruled the universe and every title came on a chunky plastic cartridge, games could simply vanish from store shelves for months. You could walk into 5 different stores hoping to grab The Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Bros. 2, only to be told, sorry kid, maybe try again in the next geological era. It wasn't that games weren't popular, it's that they were too popular and the manufacturing couldn't keep up. Cartridges required physical chips, and when supplies dried up, so did your hopes of adventuring with Link. Achievement Hunter.
And this is a Nintendo kiosk.
While the rest of the world was wrestling with cartridge shortages and wallet-destroying prices, Japan casually enjoyed a system add-on that made games cheaper and more convenient. the funky little disc add-on for the Famicom. The original Legend of Zelda even debuted in this format, but that's not the wild part. The real magic was the disc writer kiosks, where you'd buy a blank disc, stroll into a convenience store, and download a brand new game onto it for pocket change. The Nintendo didn't stop there. Stores also had the disc fax machines, where players could upload their high scores for Nintendo for prizes. Things like Famicom stationery, or even a gold punch-out disc.
RGB modded top loader, and it has a multi-out mod to it.
Phone help hotline. Okay, so we've established two things on this list. NES games could be both incredibly hard and incredibly popular. So when these two descriptors meet, you get a lot of kids needing help, and well before the days of the internet. That's where Nintendo swooped in with its wonderfully chaotic solution, the Nintendo Power Hotline. At first, the service operated like a voicemail system for desperate gamers, serving up pre-recorded hints for the price of a long-distance phone call. But eventually, Nintendo leveled up and opened a 900 number staffed by real live game counselors. These heroes would guide you through your gaming crisis for 95 cents per minute, which meant clearing a dungeon might cost as much as buying the game itself.
Okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Keep getting this magazine, you know.
Yeah, one pop up.
That's okay. Here we go.
Gameplay.
Nintendo, this is Craig. How can I help you?
Nintendo's original hardware mascot. It's almost impossible to picture Nintendo without Mario now, but before Mr. Mario showed up on the scene, the company's real hope for a long-term mascot was a bright yellow square with Google eyes named Diskin. Yep, Diskin. Imagine trying to hype kids up for a floppy disk with a face. Although who knows, Clippy did pretty well. Diskin occasionally pops up in modern titles as a tiny wink to longtime fans, and even sneaks in a cameo in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which is nice. After all, not every mascot gets to retire with dignity. NES magazine is worth a lot. In January 1987, Nintendo unleashed a free newsletter called the Nintendo Fan Club. It arrived in mailboxes like a paper-based power-up, packed with tips, previews, and enough hype to keep every kid buzzing until recess. And it worked. The newsletter racked up 600,000 members, and by 1988, Nintendo was poised to sell 7 million NES consoles in a single year. But the Fun Club was just the warm-up act. In mid-1988, Nintendo leveled up the newsletter into a full-color magazine called Nintendo Power. It was an incredible marketing tool, and today, issues of the magazine can go for upwards of $100,000. NES Satellite.
Alright, so here's an interesting product.
Did you know that in 1989, Nintendo unveiled the NES Satellite? It was a gadget powered by 6 C-cell batteries that let 4 friends play NES games at once. In theory, it was awesome. In practice, well, there weren't many 4-player titles. But hey, enthusiasm counts. The Satellite did include wireless functionality and turbo buttons, making it feel like a high-tech spaceship accessory, even if it devoured batteries like Kirby at a buffet. There was also Fourscore for European players, essentially the same thing minus the graveyard of dead batteries.
No shelf, and maybe you had a big TV, big living room. Your couch is pretty far away from your TV.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of our latest videos.